Hello and welcome to the virtual celebration of our 2021 Central State University Athletic Hall of Fame inductees. We have 6 individuals going in this year, including the gentleman who's joining us here today, Mr. Harold Hogue. Congratulations, Harold. I know you're excited, and you are officially, as of this moment, a Central State University Hall of Famer. When you got that call, right, the first time you were notified that you'd be in the Hall of Fame, what emotions went through your mind?
I was in Las Vegas, and I think it was about 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was really calling to talk about my son, Miles, going to Central State University to play football. And then I was on the phone with you, and you told me, I believe, goosebumps. And I got, my voice got a little raspy because I got emotional. It was a great phone call because it's a fraternity. And some of the guys who I know went in there, from Alvin Street to Coach Woody and to Thomas, Coach Herm Thomas, which is a great player, great mentor. I was excited because I knew I came in under different circumstances. And it's still, that phone call still resonates in me to this day. I'm enjoying every bit of that phone call. It doesn't, when I got the call, it hasn't stopped. It's been a very nice phone call that I got, man. It touches my heart to this day.
And of course, we look forward to celebrating an in-person induction. Of course, we'll do that later in the spring due to some of the health protocols and things, but the official induction today, right? Virtual induction. And our next question, short of shifting gears, we'll talk about your resume, which speaks for itself at Central State, but take us back even before, talk about your background. You mentioned the sort of untraditional route you took towards Central State. So take us through that journey, and ultimately, what was the decision to become a Central State Marauder?
Well, when I came out of high school, I think they call it a blue chip high school football player. And at that time, something happened with my GPA, but I had to take a summer class to go to Michigan. So I'm actually about to go to Michigan, and I'm playing ball and everything at Michigan University. And Michigan was totally different to me. I grew up in the inner city, and it was really, really different. So I chose Kentucky State over Michigan University. What guys at the HBC, they're doing now. They're picking HBC universities over the Big Ten and Pac-10. I just felt more comfortable with Coach Williams. And I had 3 buddies from high school named Ralph Bland and Keith Harris, 2 buddies. And they hadn't really got a lot of recruiting. And I knew Ralph was a good player. And I said, hey, Coach, I want you to look at Coach Williams, look at my 2 buddies and see what you could do for them. And he was like, wow, they're great players. We're going to offer them too. So I was like, okay, I'm going down there, state champion, 4 years in high school. I'm good. I'm leaving St. Martin de Porres, which is still the highest ranking high school for state championships in Michigan to this day. Now, I think Farmington Hills might have one over us, but at that time, de Porres was a powerhouse. And my coach, Ron Thompson, who's in the Michigan Hall of Fame, was a good man. And I got to watch Central State playing the Palm Bowl. And I remember Mark, the linebacker, Mark Mayberry, had big old biceps. I was like, man, that's a good-looking linebacker. And he had some big guns on him. I was like, man, that's a good-looking football player. And I got to see them play against North Dakota State. And it was a good game. It was just windy out there. It was a good game. So when I went to Kentucky State, it was a rough year for me. I had never lost a football game. And we lost 88-0 against Mississippi Valley State. And I looked around, and guys were like, it didn't bother them. And I knew going to college was about my education, but I felt that I could do something special somewhere. And at Kentucky State, as a freshman, I was getting letters from the Cleveland Browns and the USFL. I mean, so far as football, the scouts were recognizing, but I just thought the program was not serious. And I wanted my academics, but at the end of the day, I wanted to, if I ever had a chance to go to the NFL, when I was done with football, I wanted to be done. So Coach Lemon came to me in the spring. He said, would you be interested in going to Central State University? I was like, I can't, I don't want you to do any recruiting. It's kind of up to you. You go there if you want to go there. So I did a world tour, Nick, before I chose Central State. I told my sons, when you got the grades, you can go anywhere. So I was at Northern Illinois for a week. I was at Eastern Michigan for a week. And I went to those schools and I was enrolled in all three of them at the same time. Coach Lemon calls me up. He says, come on, man, just take a visit down here and just check out the program. You're going to have to sit out. If you go to Northern Illinois, you got to sit out. But if you come to Central State, you got to sit out too. But I'm telling you, you can really do something special here. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to Central State. And I met Coach Joe. And it was like, he never recruited me in high school. It was like, man, I'm telling you, when I met Coach Billy, I was just meeting a grown man. And he was like, what do you want to do? You want to practice? I said, Coach, I've never practiced and not played in a game in my life. I don't think I would be a great emotional addition to the team. He says, what do you mean by that? Coach, I'm going to go so hard every day, you're going to lose a quarterback in practice or running back in practice because I'm going to have me a game. He laughed. He said, so what would you like to do? I said, I would like to train in the weight room. And I grew up with bodybuilders like Ron Love, and I was in Dayton, Ohio, and I met a strength coach named Larry Pacifico. And Larry was a great power lifter. And it's like God had guided me to Larry. So when I was sitting out, I was becoming a better player because he was taking me through he did it for free. He was like, hey, if you could bench 580 pounds at 20 years old, you know how special you are? I said, not really. He said, well, let me tell you how special you are. Bill Kazmaier only can bench 661. He's 35 years old. I said, really? He said, you're strong, kid. So Larry started teaching me functional exercises, building my core, building my body. So as sitting out that year at Central State from leaving Kentucky State, it was brutal because those guys were winning. And I remember I was in the hallway working out and Marlon Jones told me, them muscles don't mean nothing. And like basically you're transferred, you stay in your lane. We're Marauders football players. And I was cut just a little bit different. Nick, I was always a Hulk Hogan fan. You know, I love pro boxing, pro wrestling. That was always my first choice in life to be a pro wrestler. But football allowed me to get an education, allowed me to embrace school and to meet so many beautiful teammates and to love my teammates and bring something different. So when I came to Kentucky State, I bring something different to the defensive line. I think I brought swag because I wasn't going to let a linebacker out-tackle me. I wasn't going to let the linebacker lead the team in sacks. And Coach Fisher used to, want us to hold up so all the linebackers can make the plays. And I told my defensive line, my first year there, I was the strongest on the team. I was the third fastest on the team as a D lineman. And I mean the whole team. I went out there and I said, I'm going to show you how I work. And if you work with me, we're good. So at Kentucky State, I transferred in and I started off on 5th team. I was 5th team on the depth chart. I was 15.
Wow. And, you mentioned your days at Kentucky State. We have some friends down there, thoroughbreds, and that's all well and good. But obviously you're one of the most prideful Marauders, and we've talked, off this interview, extremely prideful of becoming a Marauder. So just talk about that overall transition? You sat out your first year, but once you got on the field, right, and started really practicing, I mean, becoming a Marauder, an official Marauder member of the team, what was that like?
So, as I told you, I was 15 on the depth chart. Eugene Cobb was the center, All-American, coming in as a senior. He was a junior All-American. And I lined up in front of him in practice. And he had no idea what he was going to get. And Cobb was great technique. And I ran through Cobb. I had so much pinned up. My daddy told me to go back to Michigan because he didn't think I could play at Central State. That's how good Central State and them athletes looked in my day. That offensive line was ferocious. So Cobb was in front of me. That ball snap, they did a lot of talking to me. They chirped on me because I was a transfer, but they didn't understand. When I got there, I was never leaving. Nothing was going to ever, Billy Joe bought into me, so I was never going to disappoint my coach. Academically, to miss a game, health-wise, I was going to do what I had to do to stay on that field because Coach Joe bought into me and he gave me an opportunity to play at my time at the greatest HBC there was. I can't go back on the 60s and 50s and 70s, but I can tell you that time that I was there, we took pride in dominating the Florida A&Ms, the Tennessee States, and the Gramblings, the Fort Valley. Anybody we played, we took pride in those games. And when Coach Joe gave me that opportunity, I wasn't going to let him down. So Cobb had to run into a brick wall that day. And that's when I got the name the Hulkster, the first day in practice, because I was a wrestling fan and I would do my hand like this after I make a big play. So I was the first day of practice, I did the one-on-one drills and I was good. So the depth chart, I had to go down there to the Pirates and practice against the first team offense. Quarterback name was Vince Lavelle out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And Vince Lavelle was a quarterback. So you're not supposed to hit the quarterback. But I've never been told not to hit a quarterback. So I come off the ball, bam, in the backfield, hit the quarterback once, first play. I'm down there. It's my first play. I've never been 15, never complained. I was 15 on the depth chart, never complained. Boom, next play. Backfield again. Boom. Coach Joe blows a whistle. Woo, 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 woo. Coach Fisher, what is going on? Why is Hogue down here and not up there? Come here, Coach Fisher. Hogue, you go down there, you play defensive tackle, and I'll never want to see you down here again. So I went from 15 on the depth chart to first team after 3 plays.
Wow. And making an immediate impact.
Because I'm glad that I started off at the 15 because today when I look at it, I can tell kids, dude, I wasn't the chosen one. I had to earn my way into that lineup. I didn't just start off because I was some high school All-American, Nick, and say, oh, you can start off, no, I started in the pit and I started down there and I had to do something to get my way out of there. So, and the quarterback threw the ball at me. That was the funniest thing in the world. Threw the ball at me. And I came down there and Coach Comegys, Nick, such an even keel man, never too emotional, never too hyped, took me in like a son he had knocked on the door and recruited. Coach Comedy said, this is your job to lose. Here you go, it's yours. And that spring ball, it was my best spring ball ever because I had to be as hungry as I was. And Coach Comegys loved on me like he recruited me. There was no politics. Now, Coach Fisher had never had a D lineman who was an athlete like I was. I wasn't a defensive end. I was a defensive tackle. So if God say get to the ball, I'm going to get to the ball. I don't care about your linebackers. I don't care about your safeties. I don't care about your scheme. And that's where I helped my coach Comegys become a great coach, because I was the first D lineman, I promise you, that had swag. We're not just going to be holding up blocks for linebackers, guys. If that ball is snapped, Darren Harris, Terry Goodson, Kevin Randolph, Ken Hart, you get to the ball. This is my second day down there. They're looking at me like, what? I said, dude, we're here to play too. When I play that game, I want to hear my daddy's name, Harold Hogue, called off on that PA. I want to hear my name on the tackle. I'm not here to make Victor Simmons good or Art Hunter good, Ray Green good. We're here to be a team. And to help the team out, we have to be as good as we are. So we, the D linemen, we will have extra workouts. It became a training thing. Everybody was in the weight room. I'm telling you, that's why I love my teammates. They embraced who I was. Hey, this dude, Tony O'Neill, my tight end out of Detroit, get to the weight room. Let's train. This is what makes me good. This conditioning, this weight room. And they began to follow. And guys were getting strong. Randolph, 400 pounds in college. It's a lot of bench press. These guys were coming. They were like, whoa. They were starting. I was drinking protein shake. Next thing I know, the whole team on protein shakes. Even the quarterback, Melvin Taylor, no joke. And they began to be like, hey, this is how we do it. And that's how I got to be the bond with my team, because I wanted them to know, hey, I'm out here to win titles. I don't want to lose. So academically, we got to stay eligible. We got to play hard on the football field. We got to take care of our bodies. And that defense became just a unit. And I wanted them to be just as good a shape as the linebackers. So we worked out. We had great linebackers. Oh, Mark James, great linebacker. Victor Simmons, great linebacker. Art was a strong safety, a little outside linebacker, but we worked hard. I tell anybody, my biggest victory was leading I had 300 tackles, 48 sacks, and I think 3 touchdowns at Central State. And I tell every linebacker I played with, the D-line dominated. And that's why we won games, because I had to show them, hey, guys, we're part of this team too, because it was all about Coach Fisher's linebackers. And Coach Fisher had some great linebackers, but Coach Comegys, man, I promise you, that D-line class of 86, 87, 88 gave Coach Comegys so much pride, because we worked hard. We were the hardest working unit at Central State University.
And you talk a little bit about some of those names that were on the defense, including yourself, but Hall of Famers and probably some future Hall of Famers, right? And it goes more than just the 11 starters. I mean, just a loaded defense, obviously loaded offense. To your fellow inductees for this year, Terry Morrow, Brian Hurd, who you had to go against too.
Yes, Terry Morrow.
And you talk about that team winning multiple Black College national championships.
Yes.
I mean, I was talking to Brian the other day. It was very few times you would pick up the paper and see Central State on the wrong end of a box score. Very few times. Mm-hmm. And so of all that success, all that team success and individual success, is there a specific game or moment that you can remember or that sticks out to you?
The first one would be, I think we had a 10-10 tie against Florida A&M. And I don't know what happened to our offense that day. It was just a little bit off. And Florida A&M didn't want to do anything to win the game. They were like, as long as we don't lose, we're okay. That's how they felt. And I opened the game up with 3 straight tackles in the backfield. It was like Coach Fisher allowed me just to loop inside. boom, 3-yard loss, boom, 4-yard loss. It set the tone for our defense. And I believe Victor Simmons had a great game. I think he had 22 tackles. And I was like, man, you had a great game. I was 2 tackles under you, but next week I will not let you out tackle me. Florida A&M game, Tennessee State game. It was fourth quarter, and they were coming down to beat us. This was Circle City Classic. This was a tight game. I don't remember the score, but it wasn't one of them 44-zip blowouts. And I made one tackle. It was their last drive, and some kind of way, Fitzpatrick had blitz. Greg Fitzpatrick had blitz, and the running back stepped up and hold 5-yard loss. They did a fake field goal to win the game, not to tie it. Tackled the kicker in the backfield, tackled him for a 7-yard loss, and that's how we won that Circle City Classic. That was a fine moment. I love Hillsdale because Hillsdale had beat us one year, and Hillsdale would say horrible things about our academics, which was garbage. We were a good academic team. We didn't have no ineligible players. And I think me and Ray Green had the game of our life at Hillsdale College. We were on every tackle. And Grambling, which probably would be my funnest game, because Eddie Robinson, even though I was a top 10 prospect in Michigan, he said he didn't recruit boys from the North. So that stayed in my mind. So when I got to play against Eddie Robinson, I had about 2 sacks and I had a touchdown on defense. And I think my roommate, Kevin Pettis, had gave me the hardest hit. I don't even know how he got on the field, but he tackled me when I got into the end zone. My own room, and he was on offense. I don't know how Milky got into the end zone to celebrate with me, but it was crazy. But us beating Grambling, us beating Florida A&M twice and tied them once. We tied 2 games. The hardest loss was Northern Michigan, but those games, when we came down to play, Coach Joe's itineraries helped me guide my life because it taught me how to be organized. Billy Joe would say, we're going to do this at this time, this at this time. And Nick, every game that we played was a classic. Homecoming might have been the most laid-back game on our schedule. And that's not because we were playing Kentucky State. It was that we were playing Homecoming. It gave us some energy. But those other games, Circle City Classic, those are stress games. Those are games that we couldn't lose. And we treated it like we couldn't lose. Those playoff games, the NIA playoff game we won, I was happy. I was defensive player of the game against, I think it was Catawba, one of them schools that were called. And then the heartbreaker was when we lost against Carson Newman in the semifinals, and we couldn't get any points on the board. I sat on the bench. I was like, oh my goodness, this is over now. And I sat on the bench and I was like, well, this has been the best 3 years of football in my life. To play with the men that I played with. And I think I sat next to Brian Hurd on the bench. And me and Brian never did a lot of talking. We were just leaders. He led the offense. I led the defense. Brian was unique. 4-year starter at Central State. Do you know how much pressure had to be on Brian Hurd every year to keep his job? That's how good that Central State was. This man, Brian Hurd, my teammate, and it's a part of the team. When I heard that Bryant was going in there, I said, what a class. Because I know to be a 4-year starter there, I was a 3-year starter. But to be a 4-year on Coach Joe's offense, which was complicated, he had the mental toughness. He was a leader. He didn't do a lot of talking. He just led by example. And that's why I like Brian. He was totally opposite to me. I led through emotion. I was like, hey, we're not losing to Grambling today. And I was on the elevator in New York. And Jimmy the Greek was on the elevator. So he talked to one guy from Detroit. I won't say any name. He said, what's going to happen today? And the guy was like, I don't know. We're going to do all right. Jimmy the Greek said, you must not be a starter. And Jimmy the Greek told him that. And he wasn't a starter. And he asked me, I said, we're going to whoop their tail today. We're going to fight, and Grambling thinks this is an upset, but they have no idea what they're going to unleash to today. And we dominated Grambling. It should have been worse than what it was. We gave up a couple garbage touchdowns, but we dominated them physically on the line because we love to play that Division I AA schedule. We had one year, I think we played 5 1AA teams. And then the other teams we played were all Glediac Conference teams, and they were good too. Then we would play Winston-Salem. Hampton was number 2. We were number 1 in Milwaukee, and we beat them 77-14. So every game at Central State, I took pride in every game. I wanted to lead my brothers every game on that defense. And if I was doing bad that day, I wanted them to pick me up and hold me accountable. You know, like North Dakota State, man, I thought the whole team was blocking me. I was in my room one day reading the press conference, and I promise you, 3 guys came off that ball at one time. I say, what in the world? Not a double team? I had triple team the whole game. So Coach Fisher said, can you do me a favor? I said, what, Coach? Just go down on just create a pile for me. You can't take on 3 men, Hogue. I said, okay, yes, sir, I will. And that was the most I had to be a real teammate that day, because I knew that it took a team. Even though we lost, it was the best team performance we had because we had to reach in different. The weather was cold. We hadn't seen an option all year long. But as a team, I believe that was the best. We lost, but I believe it created a bigger bond for us as Central State because we understood when we got through the offseason, everybody understood they had to get bigger and stronger to compete with the North Dakota States. They knew they could compete. They knew it was a different program. So when we got on that plane, I think when we got back from break, everybody was in the weight room the first time. That loss really helped Central State University. And it did. It made us better. It really did.
And you talked a little bit earlier about some of those bigger games, the FAMUs, the Hamptons. Grambling, just got to throw a stat in there for those watching. 6-0 all-time against Grambling. A lot of those wins came during that era, right? And you're a huge part of that. And when we talked to Terry Morrow, when we talked to Brian Hurd, huge part of that success. So we like to remind our friends from Grambling about that all-time record.
Yes.
And some of the other successes as well. You have always been we talk about you as a leader and, sort of an influencer on the team, but always approached things with positivity. Just kind of talk about how that attitude helped the team. You mentioned, you lose against North Dakota State. So how does that mindset, how does that attitude help a team bounce back from the rare loss?
Because my hero, Muhammad Ali, when I watched him lose against Leon Spinks, it was like 78, something like that, 81. I was devastated. But for the little knowledge that I had when I watched Muhammad Ali lose, when I saw him win again, it let me know, okay, great ones lose sometimes. So if you open your mouth up as a teammate and you live by what you do, it allows us to grow. You got to remember, even you play football one game at a time, Nick. So when I'm sitting here looking at you, knowing I'm going into the 21 Hall of Fame, I'm never thinking this while I'm playing. I don't know that, hey, man, I told Eric, I said, Eric, Eric Williams, I said, Eric, there's not a defensive lineman, a D tackle. You could compare my stats to any defensive tackle ever played in the HBC, and I can guarantee you, he can't put a pimple on it. I said, this is the proudest moment to get recognized from my institution. So when I think about the leadership in the hard times, because those camps were hard, those workouts on those hills, and Coach Joe with that whistle sometimes, and if I don't know if he didn't have a date that night or his girlfriend didn't like him, man, he hit that whistle all day long, and we would have to run. But he treated us like men, and he held us accountable. Our Thomas, the president, made us feel like we were NFL players. It was like there's nothing when I went to Central State, there's nothing I couldn't get from my weight room, from a nice pair of cleats. I lacked nothing. So when I left the bigger schools, hey, when I got to Central State, I said, oh, this is really nice. And what I'm trying to say, that's what created the pride. We had a pride about ourselves. We didn't play for individualism. We all played for team. And that's what made our teams different. We wanted that national championship game due to some injuries. Henderson Mosley going down a week ahead. That was my quarterback. I love Coach Woody, but Henderson Mosley was my quarterback. And Henderson showed me a lot of toughness before he even stepped on the field at Central State. He did. He showed me toughness before he even did his first practice. And I respect him for that. God rest his soul. But he was my quarterback. And I believe he doesn't get hurt. We have that NI national championship against Carson Newman, because I know Mosley was going to run down that field. The best Mosley was a Steve McNair before Steve McNair. And I'll tell anybody that. Henderson Mosley was a great quarterback, a great young leader too. And I believe that's what gave us that pride. We had pride, Nick. This was a bunch of young guys from the inner city that found a guru in Coach Joe, I didn't need a father in my life. My daddy was in my life. But Coach Joe could tap into a young man's soul, and you knew you had the greatest uncle or the greatest dad or the greatest mentor. As long as you were a man, you got along with Coach Joe. Now, if you did some bull crap, he checked you on it. If you were just doing your job, you never had problems at Central State. There was no doghouse. There was no politics. They played the best player. They worked the hardest. And they held you accountable. So those are how we got those victories against even Arkansas Pine Bluff. That was a SWAC team. Alabama A&M, we took pride in them because we were Division II, or then even when we were NIA, we took pride in playing every school we ever played.
And you talk about the team success, and Coach Joe, again, who I'm sure is watching or will watch this, world-class coach, world-class assistant coaches.
Yes.
I could go down, we could spend about, an hour going through Coach Joe's resume.
Yes.
But the players who went on and played on the professional level, and you took a little bit of a different journey, probably, good enough getting attention from NFL teams, but you went on to professional wrestling, which you mentioned was your first love, Hulk Hogan fan, and grew up. So talk about the transition from being this great football player to now I am in the professional world wrestling circuit.
I was in Ottawa. John Peterson called me, and my roommate name was Peter Nugga, who paid for the Indianapolis Colts. He was up there with me. I got to Ottawa, and I'll tell you this, Central State prepared me for the CFL. When I tell you I thought I was playing against high school players, I was dominating. When I say dominating practice, the guys who would block me, Shelby, Wendell Banks, guys at Central State were way better these offensive linemen in Canada. I got up there. I went to John Peterson. After a week of practice, all these beautiful articles. Superman has arrived in Ottawa. I'm loving this, but I'm watching things, and I'm smart. I'm watching things because Coach Joe ran Central State like an NFL team. So the Bengals are calling me, but I've already signed this contract with Ottawa. So I say, hey, y'all gonna let me out of this contract so I can go with the Bengals? Because I thought I was going to go to Minnesota in the 6th round of the Vikings. And I got up to like about 315 pounds, but my 40 was still like a 489. And I thought I was going to go with the Minnesota Vikings because my other agent name was Joe Outlaw, great guy. He had signed a couple of HBC guys, but I went with the small guy out of Cincinnati. Roger Shaney was his name. And Roger was like, he was just honest with me. You know, he was like, I don't know what I could do. I know the Bengals love you, but I think I took two P tests for the Bengals because they couldn't believe I wasn't on steroids. I promise you. I'm telling you, that's what happened. And Coach Joe was like, if I need to make a call for you to go to Philadelphia Eagles, I will. And I was like, Coach, I want to go into pro wrestling. I told the Xenia Gazette that. I said, I'm going to take Daryl Suber. He's going to be my tag team partner when we go to pro wrestling. Because that was my heart and my dream. Weightlifting, football, and pro wrestling were all one to me. I took it on the field. I loved it. My nickname was the Hulkster. That's what they called me, the Hulkster. And when I went to Ottawa, I read the contract. I read it twice. I went to John Peterson. I said, John, I think I need a guaranteed contract because this contract is this labor, this clauses, this is not real money. This is not football. So if I twist my ankle, you pay me $500 for the week. And then you expect me to pay my apartment rent. If I get hurt for 2 weeks, then I don't get my full salary. So he's like, but that's just a standard contract. So I went back to my room, I prayed, and I thought about it. I said, I'm gonna ask him one more time. I had a great practice. I think I was gonna be named the team captain as a D lineman. I was gonna be named. It was the easiest camp ever. And he went back and said, you're not getting any more money. I don't care about how you do these social laws. You want to be a lawyer, but this is the contract for the CFL. I knew guys were going to be angry, my teammates, when I walked out. But I just thought for where I was with my education, for where I was with my life, I didn't think that was real. And there was no guarantee. Because I watched guys, Nick, that were 28 years old, looked like they were 40. It was tough to see that. Because I was like, man, I don't even know if they got the facilities that Central State have. I'm telling you, coming from Central State, the way they ran things was good as any NFL or CFL program. I'm just telling you how Coach Joe was. So I walked out of there. I was in the gym working out in Indiana. I was waiting on my 2 years up. I had a workout schedule for the Dallas Cowboys, a one-on-one workout. I was in great shape, about 285, 290, good shape. This contract is about to be over with so I can go play in the NFL. I'm on my way to the NFL. I'm working out in the gym in Indianapolis. Dusty Rose comes in there. Hey, baby, how you doing? I said, it's like I'm meeting one of my heroes. How you doing, sir? And he said, did you just dunk that basketball? I said, yeah. He didn't say nothing. That's really good. So he came back the next day, got their workout because they were on tour in Indiana. Pistol Pez Watley came in there, and I think Road Warrior Animal. And I was on the bench press doing like 505 for like 12 reps. And it's like, you on steroids? I said, no, sir. This is just who I am. And I was at the gym. I was at Gold's Gym, general manager. I was making $90,000 a year. So I'm like, man, and I got my exercise and science. I'm about to start working with Tom Zapanzik of the Indianapolis Colts, become an assistant strength coordinator. So I'm doing what I like to do. And he says, I want to talk to you. I said, about what? You like wrestling? I gave him a whole wrestling rundown. I think I gave him all the way to Bobo Brazil to 1930 wrestling. I love wrestling. He says, hey, I want you to meet me in Atlanta. Go to Atlanta. Doesn't work out. He says, I go to Atlanta, but I stay there. This is 91. I go to Ernie Fran's show. I do this big weightlifting contest where everybody in the world is talking about this young kid doing all these numbers. And I'm in Atlanta for 2 years. Then Pez Watley said, hey, come down here to the wrestling school. We're not going to pay you any money. Let's see what you can do. This is 1992. I blow my ACL out, tear my ACL on a kick. So I can't walk. So 2 days later, they called me up to the main roster. Now, remember, I can't walk. I got a torn ACL. This is God's leverage to show me how bad do I want it. So I'm on TV. They throw me in the tag team with Ron Simmons, Florida State All-American, was my backup in Ottawa. I said, Ron, so you was run up to the Heisman, but you my backup up in Ottawa. So now you can have the job because I'm leaving to go back to Indiana. Ron would harass me. So Ron was in WCW doing really big things. I think he had became a champ of the world at that time. And they took me to the office. They said, we see a future in you. And I think I was the youngest guy who wasn't a father or a son of a pro wrestler. I was the first guy out of that power plant because I didn't have any shows. I had to learn as I go. So 8 years later, I became real good when I was doing Big Push with Am I Smooth and Chris Canyon. But my first contract with them, I'm going to tell anybody, was $275,000. And I was so ecstatic, stoked on that money, not knowing it wasn't really any money. They were paying way more than that. So Eric, but I took my coach's philosophy. Coach Comichees will say, as long as you're making more than your age, you're okay. You got a chance. So I was like, well, I know I'm not this old. So I took it. I was excited. And Eric Bischoff told me he liked me because I wasn't a normal pro wrestler. He said, you're smart, you're intelligent, you understand the business. And it was a great 13 years of my life. And it wasn't about the money, but it was about the experiences that I had when I was at Central State, because it was some tough times there, man. Just to get caught your first match, you can barely walk up the ring apron, and they're thinking you're going to go out here and jump, kick. Couldn't do any of that. So I just had to use my charisma to keep myself alive. And then from that time, a guy named Big Van Vader, who was really a wrestler that I thought I emulated. He was about 450 pounds, played for Colorado and played for Colorado State and played for the Los Angeles Rams. Vader sent me to Germany. So I was in Germany for 2 years as I'm really learning the business. And when I come back from Germany, I'm just a total different person. So I got to develop my talent. And it was all because that Central State had made me tough. And not to be a sob story, I was an African-American in a dominated white industry. And they respected me. It's like I tell guys, I never had a problem with any of my friends in pro wrestling. I never had any disrespect. I never disrespected anybody. I had always had a neutral respect. Even I talked to my old tag partner, Fire and Ice. It was a great tag team. It was me and the guy named Scott Norton. And I told Norton, I just didn't like him. I didn't understand who he was. And Eric Bischoff was like, he had read the interview I did on the podcast. But wrestling, I loved. And it was because of my coach Comichees. I loved the CFL. I just thought they were playing with guys' lives. You only can have 12 Americans on your roster, but you got 20, 30 of them in camp. You got to keep these guys up here a week if they want to play. So I put the business of my life in front of my passion of football, because I was like, then the next year, I think Vince Buck got drafted. Scouts had just began to come to Central State. Tony Saragusa, who played for Jacksonville, and Kevin Green were calling NFL teams to get me in NFL football. I said, hey, I don't know what y'all doing, but this dude up here is the most, and Mongo McMichael is the most natural nose tackle, and I'm not even watching them play football. How do you miss this guy as a nose tackle? God wanted me to wrestle, and I said, hey, I am the first professional wrestler to ever go in my college's Hall of Fame. And I'm stoked about that. I think I'm the first defensive tackle to ever go in this Hall of Fame. In the 20, 30 years I've been knowing about Central State, I'm not a defensive end. I said, man, I told Coach Woody, I said, do you know how special this is? He says, what do you mean? I said, Coach, I looked over all the Hall of Famers, defensive back, defensive end, running backs, quarterbacks, a couple linemen, but it's not been one guy who's played in that interior line. And I said, I hope there's many more to come. I said, Hugh Douglas, defensive end, outside linebacker. Eric Williams, offensive tackle. R. Hunter, defensive back. Matter of fact, the defense is just, this is big. I said, Coach, you know how honored I am? I said, I've been voted into 3 wrestling Hall of Fames. Going into another one in January as a pioneer, just as a pioneer in pro wrestling, me and my partner, Scott Norton. I am so ecstatic when I look down this fraternity. They just don't put you in here. This is not one of them institutions that just put you in the Hall of Fame. Brother, when I look at that list and I saw the other gentleman who played during, what was his name? The guy who was on the podcast of I forget his name, started with an M. Not Morrow, not Brian Hurt. It was one more, an older gentleman.
Oh, Maurice Calhoun, class
yes.
of, great running back from the 60s who will
yes.
be profiling later today.
Yeah, so I'm like, man, that man waited, what's that, 50 years? A good minute. I said, so this fraternity, I am honored to be in. I am honored to wear my maroon and gold. I love my maroon and gold. And when I go I'm going for the world, as I'm the oldest person to ever qualify for the world championships in the strongest arms. And I'm going against some young 30-year-old, 35. And they like, you how old? And you that's, I said, man, this is just what I do. And I have my Central State jersey. I got it duplicated with my arms out, and I'm going to wear that, and it's going to be on ESPN. So that is, when I do that, that is my proud moment. Nick, I'm telling you, to be a Marauder, it has been, since I left that university, it has been, I can argue with anybody in the locker room. And I'm talking about Ron Simmons, Florida State, All-American nose tackle, the Steiner brothers, Michigan, Mike Rotunda, Syracuse. I tell them any day of the week, we had a great team. I played with some great players, and some are going to God. Oh my God, Kendall Burks. Kendall Burks was the first Ed Reed. I'm telling you, the guy, Tony O'Neill, was a real tight end. And I mean, just Terry Morrow. When I think of Terry Morrow, I don't call him Terry Morrow. I call him my running back, because he's the only running back's name that I know from Central State, because some of the running backs would make me so mad. They thought they were in, yes, I'm telling you, when I can name an offensive player, that means he did his job every week. Morrow gave everything he had to that program. And we have a picture, and it stays in my heart, with Morrow, me, her going out for a coin toss. at the Circle City Classic. And for God to have us all enshrined at the same time is special to me. And because those were my teammates. And I tell everybody, without the special teams, without the punters, without Tony Copeland kicking the ball, without the offensive line, without the D-line, without the linebackers, I'm not in here. This is not an individual reward. This is not an individual award. This is a team award where a player gets circled out. This is a little special, but man, my teammates, everybody played on defense with me. I love them because they helped me get here. They helped me really get here, Nick, because a lot of people want to act like, oh man, I was this and that. No. If that linebacker is not doing his job, you don't win those games. In football, it's like chess. You got to be in the right position to win those games. You can run for 500 yards, but if you throw 7 interceptions, you're in some trouble. It is the biggest, from Coach Lemon, who brought me there, to Coach Joe, to all my teammates. Nick, I share this award with all of them. That's why I've been like so adamant, like, man, I got to get one of my teams in there. Man, we played some great HBC schedules. No, we did not. We lost to some teams that every team we lost to won the national title. That's what is a Debbie Downer. Carson Newman, final, they win. I think Carson Newman the year before, they win. Then it's North Dakota State, they win. Those 3 years, all those teams won the titles. But I am telling you, Nick, being a Marauder was picked by God for Central for life. It's a great school, man. Love that place.
And you talk about the pride of being a Marauder. As I talk to our other inductees and the resumes, yourself, Brian Hurd, and Terry Morrow, and then you go on, you mentioned Maurice Calhoun, the gentleman who's been waiting a long time.
Yes.
But professional football player, drafted by the Miami Dolphins. We have our 2 track and field ladies, Beverly Grant and Sheridan Smith, dominant national champions. I think Beverly 15-time NAIA All-American, Sheridan 20-plus time All-American. So this class is just incredible. And one by one, you guys all talk about the pride you have for your school. And even after you graduate and move on, still representing Central State to this day.
Yes.
It's something special for sure. Harold, you're officially, once again, we're with Harold Hogue, 2021 Hall of Fame inductee, official as of today. And Harold, we just want to give you the stage now to officially thank and acknowledge all of those who got you to this moment. So this is your stage to acknowledge and really say what's on your mind.
I want to thank all my coaches from high school to the Little League, because we're talking football right now. I want to thank Coach Charlie Spann, Bud Jones, Ron Thompson, Billy Joe, Coach Williams, Gary Moeller, my teammates, my family, my mother who's not with me, who was my #1 fan. My mom was my fan. Even my kids who get to go through this with me right now, But I want to stay on track with the football. Just to be coached by Coach Joe was an honor, because I got to watch a man work. And I would walk from the library, and that joker would be in that office till 1 o'clock in the morning. He took pride in Central State University. Coach Billy Joe gave us pride. And that's why I watched him burn that candle all night long to want to win that one game. And I'd be like, man, he need to go home. He's still in that office. I would wake up sometimes, his car's out there 4 o'clock in the morning. So you had to want to play for a man who had so much pride in what he did. And that's why I love Coach Joe, Coach Rick Comegys, Coach Fisher, my teammates from Tony O'Neill, Tony Copeland, Victor Simmons, Kendall Burks, all my brothers, Taurus Robinson, oh my God, Henderson Mosley, even DeAndre Brooks, who was a quarterback one time, and Vince Lavelle and Terry Morrow, all my teammates. I can't even name them all, but they all have a piece of my heart because we all sweat together, we all won together, and when we lost, we really stuck together. And there wasn't many times, but the 3 or 4 times that we did, it made us even more bonded for where we are in life right now. I never thought those 3 HBC titles would mean so much to me until I can Google them and look at them like, man, look at that string of titles. Man, that was 3 dominant years. There was no Grambling in front of us, no Tennessee States. It was that little bitty school out of Wilberforce, Ohio. And that's where I take so much pride. Art Thomas, who treated me like a man when I transferred from Kentucky State to just Central State University, to my teachers. Man, they put up with just a weird little joker. You know, this kid is cut. I want to ask 80 questions. And Dr. Williams said, ask 81. Go ahead, ask more. And my kinesiology teacher, Dr. Morris, oh my God, she was tough as nails on me. She was tough as nails on me. Oh my God, Dr. Morris. I still have nightmares about her class here and there. And just the pride where that clock stands at with that school, man, it's special to me. And I love it. And I love everything about Central State University. I love everything about how God led me there and knew that's where I needed to be and knew my role. I mean, I told my son, I said, God has given me everything. I had a professional football contract. I walked out and they thought I was crazy, but God had another plan for me. And it was pro wrestling and weightlifting. And it's what I do to this day. Wrestling, Central State is still a part of my life. I said, guys, that's why when you go to school, leave your legacy, because this is 30 years later. This is not 10 years. I watched guys go in there before me. And Ed Chambers told me, do the paperwork. They don't remember who you are, Harold. Do the paperwork. Fill it out. And Ed Chambers, God rest his soul, but that's what he told me. And he said, and he gave me that paperwork, I think, Nick, in 2007. And it sat on my counter. I said, why should I have to fill this out? And then what motivated me to fill out that paperwork was when I saw Art Hunter go in there 2 years ago. And I was like, okay, it's time to fill out my paperwork. Not because Art motivated me to fill out my paperwork, because I had to understand this has been 25 years since you walked on that campus. People don't remember 25 years. They want to know who you are. So I filled out that paperwork, and that's how I got to know you. You know, that's how see Mr. Perkins the other day, because I've heard his name. It was like a reunion, and you helped me get more close to my university. I told Coach Rome, give it time. It's going to, Bobby, it's going to come. It just takes time. If you think you can build a program in 1 year, not happening. Jimmy Johnson will teach you that. It's going to take time. It didn't take 1 year for Coach Joe. It took time. It took a couple years for Billy. And I see the pride from the stadium now. I said, I'm going to walk on that field this weekend because I hadn't been on that field since Carson Newman. I would go to homecomings and I wouldn't look at the field because I would be at the games. I would listen to the games. But now I get to walk on that field in the 21-21 class of Central State University Hall of Fame with two of my great colleagues and meeting three more great people sooner than later. Just to hear the young ladies out of Miami's story, I was like, woo, she could move. She was a marauder. Just that stoked me. I was like, man, there's so many great athletes and great people who come through this university. And I'm happy I'm the first professional wrestler. No, Marvin Pope wrestled too. Marvin Pope pro wrestled. And yes, he never made it to the WCW or WWE, but he called me and asked me, what should I do? I said, wrestle. You're in Canada, Calgary. And he went to wrestling school and he wrestled for like maybe 2 years. And then he started coaching. But Marvin Pope was like my little brother when he got to Central State. And I thought Marvin Pope honestly was the best linebacker to ever walk through that door, well, who I played with. And his freshman year, Coach Fisher was a loyal man, but Marvin Pope was a great linebacker. And when I say great, that guy right there, Marvin Pope, could play some linebacker, some special teams. And I got to check out the young guy Coleman. Just to be a marauder in this Hall of Fame. And I said to myself, to be a defensive lineman, not a splash player, but to be a defensive tackle, to get in here is special to me in my heart, because I had a lot of great guys who helped me out around that ball. And those from Victor Simmons to Mark James, they helped me out. And because they were great linebackers and we all communicated together with all different personalities. There were no egos. These guys were no egos. It was like everybody mushed together, man. There was no drama that I could ever see, because I was a leader. If it was some drama, I'm squashing that drama, and there was never any drama. It was just men knowing their role in life. And that Magnificent Seven article we did in Dayton, it was years ago, Nick. And I think Fitzpatrick was on it. Copeland was on it. Eddie Brooks was on it. Vince Buck, Brian Hurd on it. And Daryl Super was on it. And it was just a great article because Coach Joe knew he had some talented kids out there. And he wanted the world to know that he had some talented kids. So to join Vince Buck, to be inducted with Brian Hurd at the same time, and with, I believe, a future special team player like Tony Copeland, who I promise you kept that team buried. And I mean, when I tell you, Nick, this guy could punt, he buried that ball so deep in there that we could be at the 30. He would get them off a 60-yard punt and put that offense at the 15 when they should be at the 45. Those are the memories that I have of my teammates. And I'm just proud to be a Marauder. I'm proud of 2021 class, and I'm grateful. And man, it feels, anybody, I was in the airport with a guy from Grambling, had on this Grambling shirt. I said, man, that's nice, but y'all ain't never beat us. I said, and because I'm a stat fanatic. I remember last time we beat them was in 1992, I believe. I said, y'all never beat us. Well, who are you? I said, Central State, Ohio. It might not be Alcorn, but you ain't never beat us. And we beat you guys on some good stages. And I am proud when I look at anybody from Florida A&M. You never beat us. Tennessee State, you never beat me. Kentucky State, you never beat me. And I am proud to be a Marauder. And I'm proud of the people. Nick, I'm proud of being able to look at you to this day. And because I never knew I was going to have this Zoom call, and I'm glad that people sat down and was like, hey, this is a different group. These guys, everybody on my team, those three guys going to me, I got to share the Sheridan Black College Hall of Fame with Brian Hurd. For the other 2 years, I shared All-American with Vince Buck. We did it 3 times together. And Raymond Green and Kevin Turpin. And I'm telling you, just to be on those All-American teams at Central State, to get that NAIA All-American, that's 3rd team Kodak All-American Division II, and we earned those things. They weren't given to us because we were the new kids on the block. You know, those things went to the Grand Valley States and the Glediac Conference or those other conferences, and we earned our right. I'm loving that Central State is in a conference now. I love the guy who plays linebacker, defensive end up there. I follow him because he was on my All-American team. What's the guy's? Dan Hansen? Is that his name?
Don Henson. Yeah.
Don Henson. Yeah, I was on that All-American team for 3 years. So to read about him being a Don Henson All-American stoked me, makes me follow him. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of Central State right now. I'm proud of you. It's not all the winning comes. The winning comes. And once you get to win, it's a beautiful thing. And we'll get more scholarships. We'll get more stuff. And I'm telling you, I love that program. I told my wife, I told her I'm going to Central State, period. I got my vaccine. I'm going to get my little COVID-free thing tomorrow, and I'm up there. And I'm going to be there, and I'm just proud to be there. I'm proud to be a Central State Marauder to this day, till I die. They will always remember my name, and I am so appreciative of Central State University.
And we're with Harold Hogue, officially 2021 Marauder Athletic Hall of Fame inductee, member of the Hall of Fame. Obviously, proud Marauder, proud moment. And Harold, I know you mentioned you'll be coming to the game on Saturday. For those that are coming, of course, vaccinations and being as safe as we can. But Harold, we can't wait to have you at that game. And of course, for those inductees that'll be in person, you know, we'll have these plaques.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
And of course, we'll have another more formal induction, because a Hall of Fame really isn't a Hall of Fame without a real formal in-person event. And we can't wait to do so later, hopefully this spring, when we can bring all of these inductees back. Class of 2021 will be celebrating in the spring of 2022, and we can't wait for that. But once again, Harold Hogue, 2021 Hall of Fame inductee. We appreciate everyone for joining us today as we profile Harold and all of these inductees going in Friday, October 1st, 2021. And for more information on our Hall of Fame members and the athletic department, you can visit maraudersports.com. Everyone, thank you for joining us. And Harold, congratulations again.
Thank you so much. Bless you guys. Central State Marauders. Goodbye.